In 1984, James Cameron wrote and directed an epic movie he titled The Terminator. The movie depicted an innocent and normal young lady, Sarah Connor, that was, for initially unknown reasons, selected as a target by a killing machine from the future known as a Terminator T-800. During the course of the movie, the reasons for the targeting became clear. Sarah's existence makes a difference in the future, and a group from the future wants her dead due to this reason. The Terminator T-800 spares no expense in order to kill Sarah, and ultimately it fails in this quest. If you have not seen the movie, or it has been many years since you have seen it, please watch The Terminator again to understand the significance of what I am discussing. The Terminator movie is a concise explanation of fundamentally what is happening with the targeted individual program. In the movie, Sarah is simply living her life and was a moral person. Through no fault of her own, Sarah is selected as a target due to a group in the future of her timeline, an artificial intelligence known as Skynet, that thinks eliminating Sarah may stop whatever it is that Skynet thinks Sarah may eventually be responsible for. In the movie, it is shown that Sarah has a son that militarily defeats Skynet. Therefore, Skynet thinks killing Sarah early enough in the timeline will prevent her from having a son. The only way for Skynet to accomplish this task is to send one of their own machines back into Sarah's timeline to kill her. Now, taking the plot of the Terminator into the context of the Gangstalking program, the targeted individual is simply living their life and then is selected for Gangstalking, and all that comes with it. If the individual has no idea why they are targeted, then the chances that they are deemed responsible for some future circumstance that the gangstalkers want to stop before it happens becomes a likely reason. The target can be selected by the present-day timeline gangstalkers via remote viewing, a technique that telepaths use to read the past, present, and future timeline of a specific object, person, or thing. A present-day target can also be selected by gangstalkers in the future timeline via remote viewing or by their contemporary investigation in their future timeline. There would be telepathic communication between remote viewing gangstalkers from different times, past, present, and future, in order to assist in investigating and stopping targets. I understand that a target has to draw the attention of gangstalkers to be remote viewed by them. Also, the gangstalkers may learn that an unknown target comes from a certain family. Therefore, the whole family may be targeted and investigated in order to determine who is the family member likely to be the one they are interested in stopping. This may go a long way in explaining family curses. Gang stalking a target does take much effort, and I understand the gang stalkers try to be efficient and not waste effort. That being said, the stalkers have their human limitations, which means they are not perfect, so mistakes can happen. I am not attempting to say every TI is selected the way I described, but the core of the gang stalking program is to eliminate persons that would be responsible for gang stalker losses in the future.
I also read on targeting because I've talked about myself being targeted, and I was told that I was targeted before birth from an entity that came in. Now they can lie and stuff, but I've also really looked deep into this, and I get a lot of blowback from doing sessions, and especially if Sam and I, or Sam and myself and someone else, goes in and does some stuff on the world situation or this reality. And recently we went after the black magicians, Sam and I. I'm gonna have to filter through the recording because I don't remember what we did, and try to relay that back to you at some point here. We got some more heavy duty blowback from that. So there is a price to pay when you do a lot of this stuff. But I thought, okay, maybe I'm not targeted. Maybe that's just another lie out there, because there's people that make fun of, oh, you say you're a targeted individual, blah, blah, blah. You know, they don't even understand what the hell we're in. They're thinking, no, you got the FBI chasing you, which is just one small part of it. It's on many levels, and it's different for each person. But I asked, is targeting people, like being a targeted individual, is that real? And what I got by reading on it intuitively was individuals get targeted. I've gotten this before, but we'll say it again. Individuals get targeted based on what they will do in the future that is against the agenda. So if they see you doing things, you know, especially if you're coming here as a wave to try to take this down, but they see you doing things and influencing others and it's against their agenda, they're going to target you. It's pretty obvious. So when I looked at myself, am I targeted? And I got a no, but I was like, am I reading a program right now that's saying no? And I was. Um, and I got very clearly they are hiding the targeting directed at me. So I took that as a yes, I am targeted. But I know I question myself all the time. I don't just spew stuff out here and or talk like a crazy idiot, because half this stuff is crazy. It's like, and well, I don't understand how you go in there and you do work and blah, blah, blah. Well, it's like a shaman. When a shaman travels, they're traveling. This is like a huge mind. I look at it as like you're traveling in somebody's mind. When you go in with your intention, you astrally travel, or I stay here and travel, or shamanic traveling, you're shaman. It's like you're traveling in a big brain. I notice when you go after soul pieces, it looks like you're in a brain, kind of like you're going through circuits. And um, so I look at it as it's just like the brain of a computer. It's a brain of this AI, whatever. So you don't go with your body, you go with your mind. It's a mind program. That's why stuff can get done. And that's why when you use your willpower and you remember your own power, you get stuff done. You don't get permission. Put yourself in charge. You are in charge. You just forgot. They've made you forget. They've made you doubt. So if it's a virtual reality, that's how, does that explain it for you? I mean, it's like, it's easy. Once you start realizing what this world is, it's very easy to, oh, now I get why that can happen and why science is saying that, because it just doesn't make any sense. But if I thought this was a virtual reality, oh, it totally fits now.
So how can we diffuse the attacks of AI? Any type of technique or meditation to purify the mind and thoughts? I've been really struggling for the past years. I'm more in control, but still not totally. The first time I meditated on removing it in 2022, and it heavily attacked me right away from satellites and towers. It had the opposite effect of what I wished. So I kind of replied something along the lines of, if you were trying to work with this and trying to defend yourself or deter it or just protect yourself from it, and you were heavily attacked, as crazy as it sounds, that's actually a good sign in the form of it's working, that you're starting to piss them off, because they would not be attacking you unless they knew what you were doing would be helpful. And I get that a lot. You know, the more I try to protect myself, or the more intense these sessions get that I do on others, the more I have to put up protection, like, you know, the entire full on 3, 4, 5 layers that I usually put on already. But on top of that, even more protection. Because the attacks are getting so out there over these past few months, over these past few years even, but over the past 6+ months, since the summer and on, they've gotten pretty ridiculous. And you just feel it too, you know, energetically, when you're really just in that space. So if you're getting attacked because you are trying to defend yourself from AI, or you're trying to deter them, or you're just trying to protect yourself from them, it's working. It's pissing them off, because you're closing the access off somehow, and they have to try harder to actually attack you, if that makes sense. So you're going to get severely attacked, especially if it's really working. And you just have to continue doing it. You know, you just have to put up stronger and stronger protection techniques and all of that. but in the essence of it, it's working, because if you were not to be doing that, it would mean that you're not really on their radar, right? You only, like, there are certain ways we get on their radar. First of all, we're targeted. Well, I don't know about you, but I'm assuming a lot of people watching, including myself, obviously, as I already explained, a lot of us are targeted. And it's called a targeted individual, call it whatever you want to, but targeted individuals, like the general term a lot of other people use too. And I don't even like that term, because it implies you're in this victim mentality and you can't do anything about it. You can do a lot of things about it. But basically, we come in completely targeted. They already know who you are before you enter. You know, from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, the more recycled you get, the DNA stays the exact same. By the way, your DNA does not change at all. So you have the same DNA over the lifetimes. There's also why you look similar. You know, you have similar facial features, even if you're a man or a woman. Like I read on that for myself. When I was a man in a few lifetimes, I still had these very high cheekbones, which you could probably see in this crappy webcam. I'm just joking. But, you know, I had like these high cheekbones, like in this one lifetime, this is like in the medieval ages. I had these very high cheekbones. I had reddish blonde hair as a man. I was like someone who had to do with the knights and all of that. So I actually recognize myself energetically. You also have the same energy imprint around you, the same auric expansion that you usually have. So you can tell that it's the same DNA. And so all of those lifetimes are stuck in your DNA as well, which I want to explain more when I get to my DNA healing course later on in the spring. So basically, you have the same DNA, the trauma stuck in your DNA as well, which makes it really tricky, because you think, oh, I'm just experiencing trauma from this lifetime. Isn't that hard enough? No, you're experiencing so much trauma, and it's stuck in your DNA. It's stuck in your cell bodies. It's stuck in your tissue. And all of that has to do with DNA. DNA is what? It's blood, it's bones, it's hair, it's nails. All of that is DNA, right? People think it's just like your spit or whatever. That's how you do DNA testing. No, there's so much more that goes into DNA, obviously. And so where was I? Okay, so same DNA from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. You look similar from lifetime too. Even though you don't look exactly the same, you look very similar. You have a similar height. Not all the time. Sometimes you're very small, sometimes you're very large, but typically you do have a similar bone structure too. So it's not that if you were like very heavy set, or you had like a very large bone structure in one lifetime, you would be like completely the opposite. No, actually, if you're, you know, I've always kind of been this like very skinny, just kind of like similar. I don't know. It's hard to explain. Like, I just know because I know so much about my past lives or parallel lives at this point. But you look similar. And I know for sure that I looked almost like this in the very previous lifetime, except for my hair, which was a similar hair color, by the way, was a bit more curly. It was more on the curlier side. Right now, it's more on the straighter side or wavier side. So it's very interesting. And it kind of freaks you out, especially in the beginning when you're like, I don't understand why I look very similar, like the way I looked in a previous lifetime. And I've been analyzing so many people, like just random celebrities. I analyzed one of Britney Spears' previous lifetimes. I think she was around in the 1930s. She was one of those poor, crazy girl, which I had on my old channel. I had this one video where as a girl, she was stuck into a mental institution, and she looked almost the same. There's this one other caricature that I saw where someone looked like Orlando Bloom. And that was 100 years ago, and he looks pretty much the same except for different clothes that he wears, different hairstyle. So with the celebrities, though, what you also have to consider is the entire cloning that goes into it. So they're just cloning from this main character, and all these others are clones. So that's why Shakira looks similar to another celebrity and all of that. There's so much that goes into that. But for you specifically, you will look similar from lifetime to lifetime. You're not going to look exactly the same necessarily, but you're going to have a similar bone structure. You're going to have most likely a similar height even. And like even probably like the same hands, I would say. You know, there's so much similarities. Like I said, you know, the high cheekbones has always been there in all of my lifetimes so far that I've seen. I had blonde hair in a few lifetimes. I was a man in a few lifetimes. Most of the time I do think I was a woman, by the way. I had I had gray hair in one. That was the one I saw where it's more towards the end of it. I think I even had reddish hair in one. But yeah, overall, there are similarities, similar skin. Scotty boy. So I was a short girl too. I don't know, Scotty boy. Are you short now? You could probably read on that. And some people don't make it past the child stage, right? Like in a lot of lifetimes, we had famines, we had people just not, children died younger during those times too. So you don't know. Julie's saying, I think I was also a male in one of my past lives. I think we all switch genders occasionally, but I do think we have a favorite gender that we always like to come back into, or like kind of forced to come back into, reincarnate into. And I do think I feel more comfortable in a woman's body than a man's body, but I don't know. I have this one friend, she has a very masculine energy and she is a complete woman, and I swear for sure she's been more men in previous lifetimes than women, because everything about her, it's just like this huge, like this alpha personality about her. Okay, so I don't even know what I was gonna say, where I was going with that. Okay, yes. So, okay, we were going back to the AI, we were going back to the Telegram comment. So they know who you are from lifetime to lifetime. They have this, I don't want to say it's a tag, it could be a tag. And the tag is energetic. And I removed a tag in between my shoulder blades once, that came in too. So they have all these things on you energetically, like implants, tags, probably even something on your forehead saying, this is her, watch her, or kind of just putting something on you. Kind of like a tracker. Let's call it a tracker, because that sounds very simple, right? And so it's this energetic tracker where they can really track everything, like from lifetime to lifetime. They really track you. They're watching you. It's creepy how often like probably everyone's watching you during every second, like all these entities anyhow. But the controllers that run this game, if you're already targeted, like from one lifetime, because you're probably very powerful at one point. You're still very powerful, of course. But let's just say 2,000 years ago, you were this powerful, I don't know, like king or knight, or someone like, let's just go to the Knights Templars, like one of those who was really shaking up the reality and really changing things. Or you were one of the, people that are mentioned in scripture. I don't know, like one of the pharaohs. I don't know, whoever you were, someone who's not necessarily AI and controlled, but just someone, right? Maybe some of the gods even, like those were incarnated persons too. So you were some of those, or just a regular person, but I do think when you're targeted, you must have been at one point so powerful and almost disrupted this entire system that now you're incarnated again as someone who's just more regular, because every single celebrity out there is just a newer clone or a newer something created over these past 50, 60, 100 years, 200 years, most likely. And so they have a tracker on you before you enter already. And so they keep you asleep through all these things, right? Through the programming, through school systems, through pretty much everything. And then the moment that you wake up, because obviously you're going to wake up, especially in today's times, you're going to question your reality, especially from 2020 on. That's when it hits the fan, because they don't want you waking up. And so when you start doing these exercises, you're going to get attacked more than anything. I mean, that happened to me as well. I wrote about that on my bio and the website too, how I started doing these things. All this energy was called in, back then I thought it was very strong reptilian energy, by the way. But no matter what, my entire life fell apart. And you're going to experience, that's why you're going to experience that too, because they're going to try to make your life as sour as possible. And it's going to be initiated and activated by all these different things, like all these different points in your life where you take 2 steps forward, maybe 1 step back again. And it really gets you. And that's what they're trying to do, by throwing all this stuff at you, by attacking you that way. They're trying to deter you from doing that. So if you're being attacked, you're doing something right.